this afternoon. But let's go ahead and get this morning started. So Jeff, we'll have you come on up and get connected. Gio. Gio's going to be our Vanna White today. He's going to be
I'm gonna keep this short and sweet, which I know a lot of you say that's an absolute lie. So first and foremost, I want to thank everybody for coming out today. I know some of you drove an hour, 2 hours to be at this clinic. It means a tremendous amount to us, the NCAA, the NHSOA, for all of you to be here. So thank you very much, first and foremost. This man needs no introduction. For any of you that's umpired for a year or longer, you've probably heard this name before. One of my biggest mentors has taught me a lot throughout my 12-year umpire career. So I'm going to leave it at that and let him take over because he's more valuable than me. So everybody welcome Jeff Henrichs to the table.
Thanks, Chris. Back in the day when I first started, we didn't have all this stuff, so it was just like dirt, the old locker room at the Sherman Field, anything like that. Nothing like a ranger lady before you get started, right? Get all dressed up, you walk out, here we go. Well, good morning. It's kind of ironic when the NSA and Chris told me that I was coming here, I was supposed to speak for 4 hours and they were giving me $10,000. So it kind of changed to 30 minutes, and I got a check that I had to sign for. So, and it didn't have a comment in it. We all know about those. First of all, I'd like to welcome you guys. I am honored and privileged to be here. I started here, I grew up here, and I'm going to take it back to a little boy that was in the 5th grade that kind of started at Sherman Field. But before I start there, is there anybody, if this is your first time you've ever been to an umpire camp or a clinic, or this is your first year umpiring high school baseball, please stand up. Let's give them a round of applause. Now, they just talked about the rules, 2 sets of high school rules. Good luck with that, boys, because I couldn't pass either one of them, okay? But I'm going to tell you about a little boy that was a 5th grader, and my next door neighbor that Tim Higgins knows. I lived at 37th and D right across from Randolph High School. His name was Bob Lund. He was a Kiwanis, and he was in the Rotary. And he ran the concession stand at the old Sherman Field. Now let me tell you about old Sherman Field in about 1967 or 68. It was as big as Yankee Stadium to this 5th grader that was going there. He took me and I helped with the popcorn. I helped set it up. And then I got to start chasing foul balls. How many remember the old roof at Sherman Field where you got to go up and the press box was on top? I got to lay up there and watch where the foul balls went. I kind of hoped that they didn't go over the little chicken wire screen that was on the back of the stadium, or on the back of the press box. But when it went out in the parking lot, it was my job to go out and find them. What was really funny that I didn't know about was at Sherman Field, any of us go back that far, there was another home plate right next to the backstop. And I could never figure out what that was. There was a home plate with a circle, but then there was another home plate with dirt on both sides of it. Until I got to go early one day, and that's how they used to hold batting practice, so that they wouldn't dig up the old dirt in the box. They talked about professionalism and how I started. Well, that's exactly how I started. A 5th grader wanted to become a baseball player. Outside, the crack of the bat, popcorn, the umpires. I never knew what an umpire was until I got to go to Sherman Field. And I walked through the old locker room at Sherman Field with the air conditioner in it. A lot of guys are smiling that still remember that room back there. I learned a lot in those years. And part of it was how things have changed about professionalism. Is I learned that if the guy went on a check swing and they came down to me on the bases and I overruled one of the old guys in the association, I went right back to work at JV ball. You never went against your partner back in the day. Those are some crazy things. The venture took me from Sherman Field all the way to being inducted into the Nebraska Baseball Hall of Fame. I never thought about accomplishments or what would happen. I just thought about the ride, where I was going, how I started in Lincoln, Nebraska. How I started out was I wasn't a very good baseball player. I couldn't hit. I was on the baseball team at East, and the umpires didn't show up. They were playing Boys Town back in the day. And if you remember Bruce Benedict, us older guys, he used to catch for the Braves. His dad, Bob, was the head baseball coach at Boys Town. So my best friend and I, Steve Miller, we umpired the doubleheader that East High beat Boys Town in both games. The funny thing was, in the first game, my best friend, who was the second string center fielder, rang up our starting center fielder on a strike 3, and they got into a pissing match. Be careful who you beat out, right? Well, after the games were over, Mr. Benedict came over, one of the classiest gentlemen I've ever met in baseball, and shook our hands. And he said, you know what? You two are as good as anybody that we have working our baseball games. And we thought to ourselves, wow, we just made $17.50 or $33 for a doubleheader, and we thought we were rich. And that compliment of just throwing on and going out there and working without no idea what to do, what position to be in, or how to work, was something I'll never forget. Professionalism changes as you go out through your career. You just kind of show up and work the games. You just kind of take a uniform that you were handed down. You go out and work as many games as you can. But it doesn't really change until you finally take constructive criticism. Until that one guy, like Willie Weisbrook, comes into the room and says, you know what, you're pretty good, but you need to do some things different. I played basketball at Nebraska Wesleyan, and I was chosen to work the first year. I know they don't do that anymore. The first year I got to work districts. The 4 Lincoln schools, Bill Fegler, John Henry, Randy Brohorst, and I don't remember the Lincoln High coach, but those 4 coaches picked the umpires for districts. And they picked 3 of us. Myself, Dean Karstens, who I grew up next to over on Everett Street, that played quarterback at Lincoln High, and Willie Weisbrook. Now you talk about a 20-year-old kid, a 24-year-old kid, and Willie working the districts with all the old guys not getting to work. That didn't sit too well. The mosquitoes out at Sherman were really bad that year. The thing was, what really happened was Willie wasn't chosen to work the plate for the final game. He and I worked the semifinals, and Dean Karstens was chosen to work the finals. But you know what I learned there? Is I learned professionalism. I learned competition. I learned to go out and respect the game. And I learned that being successful, working hard, listening, and knowing what to take and what not to take was something that I was proud of just to start. The old Rosenblatt Stadium. How many people have been there? What a beautiful ballpark. I talk about the 3 R's of professionalism. My career's always came down to that. I've had fun. I've worked hard. But I believe the one thing that we all strive for we have the 3 R's. Responsibility, respect, and risk-taking. It's funny how I thought about this. Responsibility, it kind of started as a 5th grader chasing foul balls. You're probably thinking, why? Well, how many times have we been in those games where there's only 2 baseballs and we're waiting for baseballs to come back in, right? God forbid we're waiting for a 5th grader to get off the roof, go in the parking lot, and bring the balls back to the plate umpire. But it's funny how the game goes in full circles. I was responsible to walk out for my first game in the minor leagues in Calgary, Canada, and work a game in another country when I'd never been outside of the United States. Respect. Respect is a crazy thing. There's a guy in here that I respect wholeheartedly. Kevin Marr, works college football. He's always professional when he's talking. He always looks good. I always love to respect people that do it the right way, that I've learned from, that I've mentored, that have the guts to come into me and say, you know what, I think if you tried this way, you might get better. It's amazing that God gave us 1 mouth and 2 ears. Respect the game. When does respect start in the ballpark? When does respect start before you start the game? It's funny that there's a kid that I mentor in here that I'll talk a little bit about in a little bit. But how many of us are really getting ready to start the season right now by getting in the weight room, working out, running, and doing squats? My wife of 25 years, God bless her, having to put up with me, always laughs and says, you umpires just go and travel every weekend to the best cities, drink beer, and have fun. She's not lying. But I tell her, you know, that's a good one, hon. Next time, let's do this. On a Sunday afternoon when it's 100 degrees, I'm going to take you out to the ballpark and put you on some astroturf. I'm going to put the shin guards on, my plate shoes, my chest protector, and my mask, and I'm going to sit in the stands, drink a few beers, and watch you do 400 squats over 3 hours when the temperature gets to 132 degrees. Now, when you work summer ball in Legion, what I found out, the student managers aren't really very good at bringing water out, and if you forget to bring your water, it's hot. Right? Yes, sir. York, Nebraska. Oh my God. Here's one thing that changed me about respect when I was in Sacramento. I was in California for 23 years. I coached high school basketball and football. I coached football for 8 years at Rio Linda. Anybody that knows who Cam Scadaboo is that played with Arizona State, and then he was with the New York Giants last year. That was this high school that he went to. It was funny because his dad coached youth football. He's 6'4" and Cam's about 5'10". We were coming back from practice one day, and all the little 3rd graders were doing up downs, and they were doing them for about 30 minutes. Finally, our head coach, after we were done, he's like, "Hey, Mr. Scadaboo, you can't be doing that for 30 minutes. Or, you know, kids are throwing up, crying, going home, or we'll never have football players." And then he asked me to take over a basketball program at Rio Linda, where the year before the varsity team was 1-26, and the seniors had only won 1 game throughout their career. I thought some coaches were going to be in here, so I was going to have a little fun with this, because I took over, and the first year we went 14-13. I won 14, and the referees lost 13. I can find it's never my fault. It was the referee's fault. I wish the Illinois guys were in here today before the Nebraska game. But you know what? It made me become a better umpire. Because I had respect for the game and I had respect for officials. When my referees came into my locker room for a high school game, we played the freshman, the JV, and the varsity. And the the JV guys were probably coming right from work. Does that happen to us in a high school game? They had 2 sandwiches, Gatorades, and chips, and a snack waiting for them. They each got a t-shirt from our high school, and then the same thing for the varsity guys. They had a snack beforehand, t-shirts, and there might have been a little cooler with some ice cream in it, if you know what I mean, for the varsity guys after the game. It taught me about respect. It taught me about a guy who almost cost me my first technical foul on this side of the half-court line, calling a foul against us on that end of the court. I actually told him that I had just as good a view as he did from three-quarter court away. He didn't like it, and neither did I. But it learned about respect. Are they actually yelling at you? Or are they yelling because they lost 3 in a row? Are they yelling at you because something's happening at home? There's pressure that we don't know what's going on? When I was young, I always thought I had to yell higher than everybody else until I made it to Major League Spring Training. And then there was a guy named Doug Harvey that talked about anytime there's the 20-second rule. When they come out and argue with you, don't say anything for 20 seconds. Because they're going to run out of gas, they're going to start repeating themselves, and then you can take the argument from here and meet it here. There's a reason they called him God. He was the best. When I worked spring training, the most respected man I've ever seen, I'm at first base with him and Dana DeMuth. It's the Anaheim Angels against the San Diego Padres in Yuma. I ran out on the field, and I don't know if my feet ever touched the ground. You know that feeling, Reese and Justin, when you come out of umpire school and you just finally make it? It's a pretty good feeling. I went out that day, and I saw guys like Tony Gwynn, Dave Winfield, and all the guys run out of their way to come over and give the chief, God, a hug. Respect. What do you do when you go on the field to demand respect? How do you earn it? How does it take you from when you first started to where you end up? It's a great thought. Last of all, risk-taking. Why is that important? What risks do we take? There's been many kids that have left Nebraska to risk it all to go to umpire school. And we finally started making it. I could talk about other sports, but this is just baseball right now. To pack up, to leave to go to Florida or California, and think you're pretty good, but as soon as you get on that flight, by the time you land, you think, what in the heck am I doing here? I got 5 weeks of getting yelled at by Major League umpires, and I think next to being in the military, and whoever's been in the military, thank you so much for your service. And I don't mean this in any way, shape, or form, but next to going to basic training, I really think umpire school is the next hardest thing to do. Because you'll be going for 2 weeks, and you'll be doing really good, and then big old John McSherry is yelling at you about one step that you mistook when you were taking the double play. Or when there's a little kid from Nebraska running first to thirds, and they're running all the way, and they're doing obstruction at third base. And I don't know who this kid was, but I'm going to tell you what happened. He went to third, he watched him touch, and they went, I'm going home, I'm going home. And all of a sudden you hear this collision at third base, but you don't know what's going on. And the throw comes to the plate, and I call him out. And McSherry says, and since we're on tape, I can't really say what he said. Henrichs, what are you doing? There's no way he's safe. Do it again. I go to third, watch him touch third, put my head down, go back to the plate, throw it home. He's out. The blank he is, do it again. I do it 2 more times, a total of 4 times. Finally I get back, Gary Darling, who ended up being a Major League umpire, tells me, you might want to watch him touch third base the whole time. If you really saw it, this guy would be in jail for assault for the next 20 years. I go running up, stop. I see it. That's obstruction. That's obstruction. I go running home. Throw it home. Takes him out right before the plate. Time. That's obstruction. You score. I think I'm going to get kudos. Finally, the fungo gets flying. That's about blank in time. Now get the blank off my field. Risk taking. Are you willing to take risks to become a better umpire? Are you willing to listen to somebody that you don't think knows more than you, but there's one thing that they tell you that might be better? I watch his signals. These are not mechanics. These are signals. Mechanics are what we do on the field. Signals are how we portray ourselves to look responsible, to be respectful, and be a risk taker. Be a risk taker. Go above. Take that game you've never done. But better yet, take a game that's below you. And when you take that game below you, you work it as hard as that game that you took above you. You know why? Because maybe that JC coach at Iowa Western or Southeast Community College in Beatrice, maybe he's really good. And maybe as you move up and get to JC and you get out of high school and all of a sudden you go to a Division III game, guess who that coach is? He's the coach at Benedictine when it's 34 degrees and you're going to work. And he comes out and he goes, I remember you. I really appreciate how you work. Or better yet, he's the pitching coach and the head coach is sitting right there saying, I know this guy, coach. He's really good. He did a good job. The 3 R's: responsibility, respect, and risk-taking. As we go here, I talk about the old Rosenblatt. It's funny how the things show up that you remember. I love that old scoreboard. I'm old school. I remember the old scoreboard at Sherman Field. But you go through and you work from high school to umpire school to the minor leagues. And then you're in Nashville on August 8th, 1993. And the phone rings. Jeff, it's Marty Springstead. I'm thinking, okay, he was the American League supervisor. I'm thinking, which one of my buddies is trying to sound like Marty and get me out of bed at 10 in the morning? Go, we just flew into Nashville. He says, Jeff, congratulations, you're going to the big leagues. You're going to Kansas City tomorrow. I need you to grab a piece of paper and write this down of the phone number of your crew chief, Jimmy Evans. Well, my head hit the ceiling. He said grab a piece of paper. He didn't say grab a pencil or a pen. So when he started giving me the phone number, I didn't have a pen or a pencil. There's 2 things in the drawer. I still have the Bible of where I wrote the phone number down for Jimmy Evans. I was excited but confident. I was ready. I participated, I'd worked hard, and I'd tried to do everything that I could. I was confident that I could get there, and from all the hard work that I'd done. The 3 C's that I talk about are confidence, character, and commitment. I'm going to try to condense it here a little bit because I know we're running out of time. But confidence is knowing your job. Do you go out there and know your job? Character is a missed call. Better positioning and learning. The Blue Angels come in and do a post game after every flight. And the crew chief of the Blue Angels always starts. And he starts this way. And I'm sure Kevin does it in his post game in football also. When I come in, if I did something wrong, the first thing I tell my crew is, I missed a pitch, I missed a play, or I hung you guys out to dry. Why is that? It's character. It's confidence. And it lets people open up that they can say, hey, I made a mistake too, or I did this, or I saw you do this, how do we try this? Confidence, character, and commitment are what people notice. I tend to believe that might have been what got that little fifth grader to the big leagues. This is the College World Series back in old Rosenblatt. I have respect for the game. I have respect for the coaches. I have respect for the players, my partners, and my assigners. It's funny coming back. I'm going to hit on this just for a second. I might go 5 minutes over. Maybe 10. Nobody likes extra innings, right? It's funny that I know all of the assigners in this, I know all of the evaluators in this room. And I know some of you came to me this summer and said, hey, I didn't get this game. I didn't do this. I didn't do that. You know what? I feel you. I didn't make it to the big leagues. I didn't stay. At 31, they crushed my dreams and said, you didn't make it. I get it. I've been there. Did I quit? No. I came back to college baseball. I tried to keep getting better. I tried to go out, and I did it for the game. I love the game. There's no cell phone for 3 hours when it's 35 degrees when you start guard. Many of you have yelled at me and said hi at the College World Series. There is nothing like being on that field. But you know what? There's nothing like being on the field at York, or UTAN, or Beatrice, or Sherman, or Van Hartog, or York, or God forbid, Wymore. On a baseball field, having fun. If you can't have fun, don't sign up. Because the guys that make us work hard and do it the right way, you lose the respect for the game, for the coaches, and the players. Can I get an amen?
Amen.
Damn, I might have to pass the offering plate around. The national championship game in 2015, I was behind the plate. Vanderbilt and Virginia. I lost the big league dream. The 5th College World Series. Last pitch of the game is a curveball right down the middle. Called strike 3. Still one of the best, when you see on Facebook the best pitches ever in the College World Series, that comes across. Nice butt. Started gaining a little weight at that time. There's moments in this game where everything gets quiet. You see that pitch coming in and you know it's going to be strike 3. And he catches it, and your timing's perfect, and you ring him up. And you walk off the field. It's not about the call. It's not about the game. It's about the preparation. Because when you handle small moments the right way, big moments never feel big. And pressure doesn't test professionalism, it reveals it. Have good professionalism. Go out and work hard. And a lot of you guys know there's one thing I always say about pressure. It's okay to have butterflies before the game. Just make sure they fly in formation, and you'll be all right. I didn't get opportunities like this because I chased them. I got them because they trusted me. The first ever college baseball rules analyst came from a 5th grader that walked up on the top of the roof at Sherman Field. Not only is he a good-looking guy, but that's not too bad of a resume. This will be my 42nd year. I sit here and I think about I was prepared, I was objective, and I did things the right way. Professionalism creates trust, trust creates opportunity, and be good at every level that you work. We touched on that. I'm a good-looking guy, man. I'm at the other side of the pillow every once in a while, right? The biggest difference about moving up is the higher you go, the smaller the margin of being correct becomes. You don't see TrackMan in high school, but welcome to TrackMan. Okay? I missed, excuse me, I want to go back to one thing. I'm going to say something about being a mentor, especially when you get older. When you get older, they're going to forget about the games that you worked, the legacy you have, or the resume you've acquired. But the thing when you retire is going to happen is the kids that you've taken underneath your wing. It's funny because I drove with Jason, I've been with Chris, I'm proud of Justin, and Reese just made it into the minor leagues. But I drove with Jason to Springfield to his first ever camp. And I thought there's no way he would ever be a Division I baseball umpire. But hard work and perseverance made it. Not only did he make it, he's one of the best plate umpires in college baseball. Last year we were kind of going back and forth. I was beating him for a while behind the plate. Then he beat me. Then all of a sudden at Ohio State one night, he pops 99 out of 100. Now, you know me, I'm going to give you a little love, but then I got to cut you in the butt a little bit, right? He also flew, now I don't know about this, Kevin, you know about flying as much as I do. He flew from Lincoln to Las Vegas to Columbus, Ohio, because it was $100 cheaper. I got to work with the kid a little bit more. But I'm proud of him because he's become a Division I umpire after going through some battles coming up. And then I take over with this little kid coming through this summer, working Dodge County games for $100. Maybe drinking a beer or two and having a pizza with this guy after what small tip? Marriott Martini and Dodge, yeah. What a great place. Just make sure the CHP or the highway patrolman or whatever are on the way home. Be a good mentor. Be somebody that when you finally are done, you can look back and say, you know what? I got a coaching tree. In closing, I'm going to talk about this. As you get close to the end, don't think about the games or the travel. It's about the people. Partners, mentors, it's the moments when the game asked something of me that I was ready to answer. Are you ready to answer? Hell yes you are. You're here today to get better. I've been incredibly fortunate. A kid from Lincoln, Nebraska, climbing up on the press box on the old. You had to walk on the old crates to get up to the top of the roof to chase foul balls. Made it to the big leagues. 8 College World Series. Got to work the Baseball World Cup in 2009 in Europe. Got to work Team USA versus Japan in Tokyo. That would be another 3-hour segment if I wanted to talk about that. I learned a lot of Japanese over a few beers one night. But none of this was because I was chasing moments. It happened because I was blessed and committed on how to handle the moments I was already in. So my question to you is this afternoon, when someone tells you your story today, what's it going to be about?